Wow, was that ever difficult to watch? Chelsea play host to Brentford and emerge 4-1 losers at Stamford Bridge. Let's get into it.
And blue is the colour. Essien! Drogba! Lampard! That could be the
championship! Greetings! Welcome back to Couch Critic with me, Dennis P. for what is another Chelsea match review, but more specifically a tactical synopsis of Chelsea's performance at home versus Brentford. Before I get into all that, I do need a favor from you guys. Please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. And if you're a real bad man, you'll hit that bell notification button to keep up with the latest and the newest. And I do have a sponsor for this show, and I want you guys to know that it is Major League Socks. And if you ever want to walk in the footsteps of greatness, you know what to do, fellas. Hit them up. The link will be in the description. Okay, brothers and sisters, I must say it's good to see you guys again. I'm sorry I haven't been able to do any videos the last little while. Just been extremely busy with work and personal issues with my family and whatnot. But I'm happy to be back, but not quite with this game. Unfortunately, Chelsea went into this game against Brentford and, got smacked up 4-1 and deservedly lost the game convincingly. In this match review, we're going to be focusing on Chelsea's 4-3-3, the personnel and what is required in the personnel in order for this to play effectively. We're also going to be looking at Chelsea in a 4-3-3, their ability to break the press and what is needed in that particular setup and shape in order to do that effectively. We're also going to look at some of the individual performances in this 4-3-3 as well. So like I said, it's all going to be about 4-3-3. We're going to analyze that and, take into account that, Chelsea weren't really playing their particular preferred style, preferred shape. Okay, first and foremost, I'm not going to make any excuses for this 4-1 drubbing. I think that Chelsea played extremely poor, but I do think that there are a couple reasons as to why Chelsea were not able to find their best football today. Of course, as we always say, the international break has wreaked havoc once again. A lot of players coming back from overseas and all over the world really, and just weren't not able to come back and play at their top level. Obviously, Brentford don't have a lot of players that play internationally, so they were able to press right from minute one and put Chelsea under a lot of pressure. Now, granted, we didn't have a preferred lineup together. Chelsea came out in a 4-3-3, which we will discuss and analyze. We had, of course, Azpilicueta at the right back position. We had Rudiger and Silva in center back positions and Alonso at the left back position. In the midfield, we had Ruben Loftus-Cheek in solo 6, and he was supported by N'Golo Kante and Mason Mount. And then further up the pitch, we had Ziyech, Werner, and the man in form right now, Kai Havertz. Now, in Thomas Tuchel's 4-3-3, it's absolutely imperative that you have one of two things. Either you need to have fullbacks that can get forward, overlap, and release our attackers by giving them some space and to liberate them and give them more space in the final third, or you need a midfielder that can link the play, basically a guy that can play in between the lines and connect our attackers from our defense. So basically be the transitional pivot for Chelsea, and we just did not have that today at all. Now, obviously, Ruben Loftus-Cheek was playing solo 6 today, and his job is basically to keep things ticking over, work it into our number 8s, the Kantes and the Mason Mounts, and make sure that they can get on the half turn and, impact the final third. But again, Ruben Loftus-Cheek to me is not a number 6. He's a number 8 that needs to be getting on the ball and running at defenses. And, in that's how he thinks the game naturally. And today, he was just, again, started the game extremely slow just because he was still thinking the game is a number 8, trying to get on the half turns and dribble past, the onslaught of Brentford's press, and just did not do it effectively. Turned it over more than a few times and was caught out of position, and this is the position where you need him to just be safe and simple. And I don't think that that's his game at all. Like, Ruben Loftus-Cheek wants to be running at defenses and, basically playing in that exact same role that Mason Mount was playing today, that sort of like in between 8 and number 10. And, somebody that can get up and down the pitch and, be decisive in the final third. But ultimately, he's playing solo 6 today and just was not delivering what we needed from that position in a 4-3-3. Somebody that can come collect, use his movement to get into areas where he can collect the ball and distribute it. And, he got caught more than a few times, and it led to our demise on more than a few occasions today. I thought that ultimately what we needed was Mason Mount to play more of an active role in the half spaces, get on the ball and dictate what we want to do offensively. He was the guy that should have been the conduit for our attacks. He gave it away more than a few times. His passes were wayward again. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. When Chelsea play 4-3-3, we definitely need a number 8 or somebody that plays in between the lines that is effective on the ball and doesn't turn it over. And unfortunately, we just did not have that today. Again, N'Golo Kante was, just basically chasing shadows today. He didn't really have a great game either. Basically in possession, when you want Chelsea to be on the front foot and whatnot, you have Mason Mount and N'Golo Kante being the guys that you want to be getting into the dangerous areas. And while Kante is good at juking by and, dribbling past somebody every now and then, getting on the half turn and getting in behind, once he gets into those positions, he's not necessarily the most sound at finishing these opportunities off. And I think that was what was mainly rearing its ugly head today. We had two players who were being used in positions where, yeah, they could be effective, but they're not going to give you what you want in that 4-3-3, which is that thrust from that midfield, that ability to get in that final third and make a difference there. And, you want that more from Mason Mount than you do from N'Golo Kante. We all understand what N'Golo Kante delivers on the pitch. He's a guy that can win the ball. He's a guy that when he gets into the final third usually takes good decisions, but at the same time is not necessarily the most technically sound in terms of finishing off opportunities and making that, incisive pass. Now, I have a lot of time for Mason Mount. I think he's a guy that you can put in different roles and get a 7 out of 10 performance from him pretty much almost every time. But today, when we asked him to be the creative outlet, to be the conduit for our attack, he just faltered. And a lot of it just came down to the fact that, we need him to be precise when he's on the ball and not make any mistakes. And too often, when he got on the ball, he gave it away. Too often, when we were looking for that incisive pass, he played it right into the defenders, or it was a wayward ball. And this is the role that we need him to excel in, especially when we're playing a 4-3-3. We need him to be the guy that is demanding the ball, getting on the ball, and making that difference in the final third. And, today just wasn't his day at all. I mean, there was spells in that game where I felt like I didn't even know he was on the pitch. And when we had almost like 3/4 of the possession, 65, 70% of the possession, you expect him to be getting on the ball a lot more and making an influence in the final third. There were times where you had to see, for us to even be effective in our attacking movements, you saw Kai Havertz having to drop deeper to get onto the ball. And really what it comes down to is when you're in possession in the final third, you just have to move it quickly. I thought Kai Havertz did a good job when he dropped deep to flick it on, but the problem that we had was we just didn't have anyone that was running in behind once he came deep and engaged the defense that way. And, what you want from Mason Mount in that role is you want him to get on the ball quickly. Chelsea's playing 1-2 touch possession. You want him to be the guy that's making the risky pass to get us into that dangerous zone, and we just didn't get that enough today. We moved the ball quickly, and once we got it into our number 8, number 10, he was too ponderous on the ball to make the decisions that could really hurt the defense. And, it just happened time and time again, not just with him, but also with our fullback play. Obviously, Brentford did a great job of pushing our attack out to the wide areas where we weren't very effective at all because we weren't getting the thrust from Azpilicueta. We weren't getting the thrust from Alonso. Yes, they were overlapping and getting into those dangerous areas, but they weren't really providing any real threat when they got out there. We had Ziyech and Werner also supporting in the wide areas as well. But when you don't get your fullbacks, providing that recognition when to play the ball into our attackers, when they don't necessarily look to really hurt teams, that's what you get. There were more than a few opportunities today when you saw Alonso get on the ball, and you can see that the attackers, in particular Kai Havertz, is looking to run into space to break the line, to break the final line and make that, that incisive run to get us in behind. And, it's just a recognition. Alonso does not recognize this nearly enough. Same can be said for Azpilicueta. Their routine is to overlap and recycle possession in wide areas. But if you're not looking to be the conduit, the guy that's going to be making that threading pass to get, the likes of Kai Havertz, Werner, Ziyech in behind, then, they're basically useless and ineffective. And that's exactly what we saw today. We weren't really pushing our fullbacks forward enough because there was no need for that. They weren't really effective when we got there. So it was better especially in the first half, for Thomas Tuchel to sit them back and play a little bit safe and see if we can, initiate our attacking moves with our midfielders and the movement of our attackers. But, come the second half, when we're looking to be a little bit more adventurous and we wanted to get more of that thrust from our fullbacks, it just left us so exposed, and they weren't really providing enough in the final third to justify them, leaving us with so much space in behind. And, we got burned more than a couple times just based on the fact that like Azpilicueta and Alonso were caught out of position and not really providing enough to justify being that wide open. So when Chelsea play a 4-3-3, it's either they have to have a midfielder who can basically stitch together the moves, move the ball quickly into dangerous areas and make quick decisions, not be ponderous on the ball, or you need to have those wingbacks, those fullbacks get forward and provide that telling ball, provide, just engage with the defense so that we can actually get our attackers into great areas. And, just recognition is so important from our fullbacks. We need them to be, very much like attackers, like wide attackers when we play that 4-3-3. And we just did not get that at all today. And Brentford capitalized on it because they weren't effective getting forward. And when they looked to counter, we just didn't have the speed and technique to get back and, defend. Now, while a lot of this game came down to Chelsea's inability to be, effective in possession, to create goal-scoring opportunities with the ball, use the ball effectively to get in behind the defense, a lot of that was attributed to the fact that Brentford were so good at pressing the ball, and the decision to do that, especially in Chelsea in a 4-3-3, was, very, very much commendable. Chelsea had all sorts of problems with it. I think a lot of it just comes down to, who we have in the back four, including Mendy, and where the pressure points are. I'm going to be honest. I don't trust Edouard Mendy in possession. I don't think that he, his distribution is good enough, and I don't think that he ponders on the ball a little bit too long and takes too many chances. And when he takes those chances, it puts the defense under a lot of pressure when the pass is a little bit wayward or it's not, weighted correctly for them to like get on it and do something with it. It puts players who aren't really comfortable in the ball, obviously Alonso being one of them, and of course, Azpilicueta, who's okay with it, but again, more often than not, he's going to probably just play it right back to you and you're still under that pressure. Puts them under a lot of stress, and we saw that again today. In the 4-3-3, it requires Mendy to be one of the ball players more often than not, because normally what you have is Chelsea's three at the back. You have Thiago Silva in that position, and he's either flanked by Christensen or Rudiger, or, Azpilicueta and Rudiger, and it just provides you with so many different angles, and you don't have to involve the keeper as much as we did today. For me, I would rather see Chelsea, if they're going to be playing out from the back, you definitely need a central defender like a Thiago Silva or Christensen who can, marshal and articulate where the ball's supposed to go. And, when you're missing that, basically you're looking for Ruben Loftus-Cheek to come a little bit deeper and get on the ball. But basically he was, again, marked out of the game. Like he could not get on the ball in transition. And when he did, he was looking to play it like a number 8 and not just keep it simple, look for the next passing angle that's easy for Chelsea to help, break the press. He was basically trying to be the guy that was dribbling past to get into the second wave. And what you want him to do in that position, you want him to be the guy that's passing the ball to the person that's passing to the guy that breaks the press. And unfortunately, he got caught in possession a couple times. And then, obviously when that happens, you start losing trust in getting it into him quickly. And, we start looking in the wide areas. We're looking for Azpilicueta to be that person. We're looking for Alonso, who's not comfortable on the ball, to be in that position. And, it takes away the strength of this team, the possession, the composure on the ball, the ability to dictate where the next move is going, where the next pass is supposed to be. And for me, Chelsea just have not worked out how to break a press, an aggressive press like what we saw from Brentford today in a 4-3-3. What you want to see, you saw Mendy basically not trust any of his defenders who tried to go long. And because we didn't really have any attackers that can hold up the ball effectively, obviously you can't go to Ziyech, you can't go to Werner, and you can't go to Havertz. I mean, you can, but he's not necessarily going to be the most adept at holding out the ball when he has these towering, center backs in and around him. So what you need is our midfielders to come a little bit deeper and, play in the half spaces. But again, the hallmark of this game was that we did not have the midfield play from Conte or Mason Mount to, come a little bit deeper and engage in those half spaces. Obviously, when we play the 4-3-3, it requires so much communication between the likes of Mendy, Rudiger, Silva, and Ruben Loftus-Cheek. And I just don't think that they had a lot of that today. I don't think that they trusted each other enough to get them, move the ball quickly, get into the areas where, the next pass is the one that breaks the press. I think that, ultimately Brentford did a good job of crowding the space and made it very difficult for Chelsea to find the next pass. It was easy to get it into the likes of Rudiger, into Silva, and then out wide to like Azpilicueta and Alonso. But the next pass, the one that you want to be the one that is going to be the one that breaks the press and gets us, moving forward and getting into that final third, it just wasn't on at all today. Either it was a wayward pass, or our fullbacks or a midfielder were put under so much pressure that they just basically played it right back and didn't look to address the pressure, weren't able to break the pressure effectively, and we just basically ended up recycling possession over and over and over again. So this is what the game was about. Like, Chelsea, as much as they had possession, they weren't really using it effectively. Once again, the possession was always recycled amongst our solo six, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, our defenders, and we weren't able to get on the ball, get into the final third, and really hurt them. Now, of course, a lot of what we see today comes down to the fact that Chelsea have a very, very important match against Real Madrid, and I think that Thomas Tuchel basically sacrificed this match for the benefit of this midweek game in the Champions League quarterfinal. And you can ask questions about it. We right now have a 5-point lead on Arsenal before their game, and there is a bit of a cushion there. There is some room to make up ground. If you consider Chelsea trying to get top two, then you might be a little bit disappointed. But overall, I think that this game in the midweek is probably a lot more important in terms of Chelsea's season than this game at Brentford. It doesn't take away from the fact that we shouldn't have been playing that poorly. I think that we had a lot of guys on the pitch today that, could have done better and, expect better from, when I'm speaking the likes of, Thiago Silva, speaking of the likes of Mason Mount, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, Timo Werner, who I don't know if he's played one effective game for Chelsea all year. Like, he's basically playing himself right out of the club. I don't know what he offers at this point in time. Every time he gets on the ball, he's either being dispossessed or he's making such poor decisions on the ball that you wonder if, he's just starting to learn how to play football for the first time. He just makes poor decisions time and time again. And, granted, he hasn't played a lot, but at the same time, when he has played, he hasn't really given the manager much to think about. He hasn't really threatened him with any sort of like opinion about him. It's been the exact same performance time and time again. So I think that we sacrificed this game for the Real Madrid game, and only time will tell if it's going to end up paying off. But, Chelsea, basically got pressed off the pitch today, could not stitch together any sort of like cohesive tack. We're in a possession a lot of the times, but a lot of possession was very much ineffectual. They weren't really able to, get into the dangerous areas. They were basically just recycling possession, looking for openings, trying to keep control of the game. But once it got out of control, they didn't have an answer for it. So credit to Brentford. They took the right approach to the game, I think, and took advantage of the fact that Chelsea were looking ahead to this, this very important tie against Real Madrid. But I do think I'm going to wrap it up there. Chelsea, wow, so many poor performances today, so many. And, coming off an international break, you do expect a bit of a lull. You do expect, a team that has had weeks to prepare to come out and have more of the energy, more of the initiative to go forward and make that thrusting play. But, I still think that Chelsea played, basically played into their hands. We didn't really offer a much of an attacking threat going forward. Obviously, when you're looking to control the game, you're looking for somebody to like break lines in the midfield. You want to see a Kovacic in there. You want to see a Jorginho in there for the control. And of course, Reece James being our, preferred right wing back or right back or right full back. He provides you so much more in the final third. So, we rested a lot of those guys for this midweek game, and, it proved to be, painful, very, very painful. I mean, it's not so much the loss, it's the manner in which we lost. A lot of mistakes in the back, Chelsea playing a back four. Maybe this is the reason why people start saying that Rudiger is not the most stable in a back four as he is in a back three, back five. Because when he starts getting a little bit more adventurous, it just exposes the defense that much more. And when you're playing in the back three, there is that, safety valve to clean up any of the mistakes. Today we just did not have that. We pushed our fullbacks forward in the second half and got rightfully punished. And one thing that I've been noticing now, time and time again, when Chelsea are, in set piece formation, like offensively in set pieces, the player that they have as the sort of like the safety, the guy that's supposed to be the one that's breaking up play, is not necessarily the best player in that position. Like today we saw Ziyech there. In the past we saw Jorginho there, and it is a flaw. It has to be considered a flaw because both times I've seen this happen. It's happened at various times throughout the year. We've been rightfully punished. Ziyech is not a defender. He's not a guy that you would expect to have any sort of, if they break on us, they're basically breaking and they're getting in behind because he just doesn't have the pace to keep up, and he's just not very good defending. And you say the same for Jorginho in that respect. So I digress. I think that needs a lot of attention. But before we get into that, I think that Chelsea need to look at that midfield area and look who is best suited in what roles. I think that number 8, number 10 role is up for grabs right now. I think that Ruben Loftus-Cheek is better suited there right now for me than Mason Mount. And it's not because I don't think Mason Mount can be effective. I just think that the things that you need from that position, somebody to just, dribble into space, thrust and give us pace and power in the midfield, is just not what we're getting from Mason Mount right now. He's been well off the pace for some time now. And, Ruben Loftus-Cheek is being played out of position as far as I'm concerned right now in that 6 role. And the things that you want to see him do in the 8 role is what he's trying to do in the 6. And that's just not looking good at all. So, Thomas Tuchel has a lot to consider going forward. This match against Real Madrid has become so much more important. Not that it wasn't before, but now, the squad, obviously the turmoil around the club, the squad getting battered 4-1 at home. This game against Real Madrid could be season defining, and we need to have the best performances from our best players. I don't know who he's going to look to start, but whoever comes in, they're going to have to play a hell of a match to best this team. But like I said, guys, it's one game. We have to keep the blue flag flying high, and we have to continue to thrust forward. As much as we are disappointed with the game, we have to get behind the squad and galvanize them once again, because it's only us right now. Nobody else is looking for Chelsea to do anything, so we have to be the ones that push these guys forward. But you know what to do. Keep the blue flag flying high, and up to Chelsea. Peace.